Hi, folks. Now, it's been a few days since Charlie Kirk was murdered at Utah Valley College, and I think it goes without saying that this was a political act of violence, an assassination, with the evidence pointing more and more to the assassin being somebody on the left, even though there is a lot of misinformation out there currently muddying the waters. Now, the assassination itself is a thoroughly shocking video to witness. I was personally caught by surprise when the video of it was dropped into a group chat that I'm a part of without anybody telling me what I was about to click on. So I clicked, and only then did I realize I was watching Charlie get shot in the neck. I wish there were better etiquette when it comes to sharing videos like that, but what I also wish is that the immediate reaction from the online left hadn't happened, because almost instantly I saw videos on TikTok, on X, Threads, and Instagram filled with comments that were just absolutely vile, disgusting, and dehumanizing, posted by people who clearly have something profoundly wrong with them. The atmosphere online was so incredibly toxic that I actually had to take a step back from social media for 2 days. I still scheduled and posted because, after all, this is my job and how I make a living, but I cut my scrolling to the minimum because it felt dark, nasty, and poisonous to even be online. And it made me think some folks out there have completely lost touch with their humanity. And that's what made it so hard to read what people were saying about Charlie and his family. Because, folks, this is a father, a son, a friend who was publicly executed in front of 3,000 people for the crime of having a difference of opinion. Now, I've broken down the rhetoric and political environment that led to this on my other channel, and trust me, there's a lot more to say about it, but right now I actually want to take a step back and do a gut check, because I think any reasonable person, regardless of political affiliation, can agree that the types of reactions we saw to Charlie's assassination were absolutely unacceptable. Valuing human life should be a universal principle, because if we're at a point where we're willing to dehumanize someone and strip them of their worth purely because we don't agree with their politics, then we're on a very dark path, folks, and I don't see any exit from it except more unthinkable violence. And maybe that's why we're so divided right now, and why there are so many doomsday predictions being floated around by every silo of opinion on the internet. And look, I'm not in the business of predicting the future. I leave that up to God. What I will say is that I hope this moment serves as a wake-up call, that more people come back to common sense, because there's a truly poisonous death cult ideology out there that celebrates this kind of thing and thinks it's a win. But folks, let me tell you something. It isn't, and it will never be. Anyway, let's get to our first clip today. We're going to watch a few people reacting to Charlie's death and comment on them, and hopefully we can learn by example what not to do in situations like this, because I don't think any of the people we're about to look at are folks that I'd want to know in real life. And I can't imagine the level of misery that it takes to post something like this.
There are a lot of people that are like, no matter what side of politics you're on, you should never celebrate something bad happening to someone. I, on the other hand, do cheer when bad things happen to bad people.
Charlie Kirk just got shot.
Well, breaking fucking news, folks. Seems somebody just took a shot at one of the Fantafast's favorite 5-mile wide mouthpieces, Charles Chucklefuck Kirk.
I can't help but genuinely think, what decisions in life cause somebody to get to this point? Because it's not normal, folks. It definitely isn't, and it should never be normal. And anybody trying to say they're celebrating the death of another person purely because you don't agree with their political opinions, guess what? You are mentally ill. And I hesitate to pathologize this too much because I don't want to hand these people an excuse. But I honestly don't see any other way of understanding it. This isn't normal, folks. It should never be normal. See, when people behave like this, it should be the kind of thing where everyone around them cuts ties, where nobody ever speaks to them ever again. Yet here we are, clips spreading on TikTok and all over social media with people laughing as a human being dying. And it makes me sick to my stomach. I mean, who does this? Were you not loved as a child? Who watches someone die and instantly thinks it's entertainment? Is it kids because, hey, the video is circulating on TikTok? Is it hardened ideologues, insane leftists who've lost touch with their basic humanity? Or is it the Chinese algorithm pushing this kind of content because It knows outrage and cruelty go viral, and it's an easy way to divide up American society. And people play into it because attention is the only currency that we value in America. I'd love to be able to rationalize this in some other way, to say it's just people clout chasing or it's some grotesque kind of performance. But no matter how I try to spin it, what I'm left with is people who are genuinely celebrating another human being's death. That isn't politics. That isn't debate. That isn't dissent. It's just straight up demonic. And I don't say that lightly, okay? There's literally no other word for it. These people have to be possessed by something dark, because I don't understand how you could just be so content in another human being, a father, dying and leaving a broken family.
I'm not saying she deserved it, but I'm saying God's timing is always right.
And goodness knows the wicked's lives are lonely.
Yeah, all these people should be put on a list. I'd like to be able to check this list and never hire any of these fools for anything, never associate with them, never trust them with any sort of responsibility. Imagine going on a date and being able to check a list of everyone who celebrated someone's death and thinking, okay, not touching that. Now, obviously, I'm being a little facetious here. I'm not saying people should be placed on government lists. That's not the kind of country I want to live in. But the funny part is that people are already kind of putting themselves on lists by posting this online. Because everything you post, every comment, every video, you're already building a record of who you are. And in moments like this, that record is damning. Look, what I'm trying to say is I'm at a loss of words, folks. There's so many clips like this out there that I don't even know if I can get through all of them, because it just churns my gut. I can't watch these without having a visceral reaction of absolute disgust. I despise this behavior. Everything about it, the smirks, the forced laughter, the fake joy. And the truth is, you know it's all fake. Because the second that they put their phone down, these people go back to their depressed, empty lives. A happy person doesn't sit around filming themselves cheering the death of another human being and then go about their day. That kind of joy doesn't come from health or from light. It comes from misery. Misery loves company. And what we're watching is miserable people trying to mask their own emptiness by celebrating someone else's death and justifying it because they don't agree with his politics. And let's be clear, that is evil, pure evil. You can dress it up in hashtags or TikTok trends. You can justify it as politics or manifestation or God's timing, whatever you want to say. But when you strip all of that away, it's evil. It's spiritual rot. And I don't use that word lightly. And look, I know the LA Times wrote a hit piece the other day saying that the narrative on the right that people are going to push is that it's a spiritual war. Well, guess what? It is. Because how else do you describe this kind of behavior? How else do you explain people finding joy in a murder? These kinds of actions are profoundly evil. And evil begets evil. The poison in your spirit drives you to do things like this. And anyone pretending it's just a joke or just politics is lying to themselves. If you can't see the spiritual dimension in this world, folks, that's not on me. That's on you. You don't want to acknowledge there's something greater than you, that there's a realm beyond what you see. And God gives you the freedom to choose. He really does. He gives you the freedom to believe in him or to reject him. But make no mistake, your choice will shape who you become. If you walk with him, he'll be with you. If you don't, you'll become one of those folks. Broken, empty, consumed by hate, convincing yourself that your darkness is light.
I just saw the video of Charlie Kirk getting his box boomed. I mean, boomed, bitch, like gone. I have no issue with it. The clown always comes back to bite. But why do y'all keep aiming for the wrong niggas? Aim higher. Aim higher.
Now, it seems like this TikToker is openly calling for more assassinations, which is objectively insane. I mean, what the hell are we living through? The French Revolution? Do they think when everyone gets wiped out that somehow they'll be the ones left standing? I mean, history proves otherwise, folks. Just take Iran in the 1970s, for example. Communists and socialists partnered with the Islamists to overthrow the Shah. And once the new government consolidated power, the Islamists executed all their allies. And the logic around this has been, explained by former Soviet spies, one who said that once the revolution ends, the intellectuals and academics who fuel it by essentially, undoing the cultural fabric, instantly become the biggest threat to the new government as soon as they realize they won't get any power. These movements always eat their own, folks, because weakness can't hold power. Stalin himself was a frail man who only survived by eliminating rivals, not by standing strong. And that's what these people calling for aim higher don't understand. They're effectively demanding their own destruction. If figures like Charlie Kirk, who had the courage to stand in enemy territory and debate anyone for hours on end, are silenced, then who's safe? Say what you want about Charlie, but he didn't hide in an echo chamber. He faced critics head on, gave them every chance to prove him wrong, and most of the time, they couldn't. That's why his opponents resorted to violence. They couldn't beat him. They couldn't beat his arguments, so they had to shut him up with a bullet. And the symbolism of shooting him through the neck, the very instrument he used to speak truth to people who hated him, shows you exactly why they feared him.
He probably made like thousands of trans kids kill themselves. I literally could not give a fuck. They can get a stepfather.
Hey, so Charlie Kirk just got shot. Maybe there are good guys with guns out there.
Update. Charlie Kirk is officially looking up at us, and I'm about to head to the grocery store because I'm making ribs tonight. Oh, but he was a man with a wife and kids. Yeah, and now they're safe from him.
So I'm going to be very fucking clear about this so that you know exactly where I stand. And I will say this with my whole entire chest. There are some people on this app that are sitting there saying, oh, you shouldn't wish death upon any person, no matter what side they're on. Fuck that. Fuck that. Charlie Kirk was a fucking Nazi. He was a fucking Nazi. And you know what kind of Nazi is the best Nazi? A dead one. Thank God that shit stain of a person is no longer in this world. And may his hell be being confronted by every single marginalized person that he hurt. That is what is fucking wrong with you. That does not make me a bad person for thinking that bad people should not be in this world. So fuck that Nazi. And have a great day.
This is what institutionalized moral relativism and secularism have created. A generation convinced there's no objective truth, only power, and that morality is whatever serves their cause in the moment. Once you accept that, folks, the leap from calling conservative speech violent rhetoric to justifying actual violence against conservatives feels not only natural, but to some, even noble. But that's not morality, folks. It's just straight up nihilism dressed up as virtue. Instead of engaging in debate, instead of proving Charlie wrong, as he literally invited people to do under the words, prove me wrong, on his tent, these Democrats celebrate his assassination because their worldview doesn't care about persuasion. They don't care about truth. It cares about victory, and absolute victory, no matter the human cost. That's why every communist and socialist regime from Mao to Pol Pot to Stalin ended in mass death. Millions upon tens of millions slaughtered in the name of justice. And it tells us something about America right now. The left has built a culture where morality shifts with convenience, where cruelty is rebranded as justice if aimed at the right target, and where disagreement itself is twisted into an existential threat. That's why these liberals, these Democrats, leftists, whatever label you want to give them, are giddy in their videos. Because relativism has convinced them that murder is righteous if the victim is cast as uniquely evil. But the reality is far much simpler, folks. It's proof their ideology has nothing left to offer but destruction. It's a death cult.
I'm just really glad Charlie Kirk just got himself fucking shot, because he's right. Empathy is dangerous to society. So no one should give a fuck that he's dead. He said it. I'm just saying his words. All I'm doing is using his words. You can't be mad at me for using his words. I think empathy is a new wave thing and is very problematic. You right. No empathy for you. Zero.
I think we're missing the point here. Charlie Kirk, he wants to be pew-pew. That's why he fights so hard for G laws to never change. This is his dream. This is poetic. I'm starting to think if he planned this, because he loves pew-pew so much. My thoughts go out to that pew-pew having to look this motherfucker in the face. My deepest condolences.
About Charlie Kirk. You like terrorism? eye for an eye, bitch. I think the only thing that went wrong that day was that Trump wasn't standing behind him getting a secondhand bullet.
Now, folks, I think it's worth pointing out a couple of things here because we're noticing a pattern in the kind of people making these comments, and let's be honest, they're undateable, and it goes beyond personality, okay? They're sneering about Charlie Kirk's death, mocking his family, even calling it poetic justice because of his support for the Second Amendment. But let's inject some reality here for a second. Who do you think makes up the largest demographic of gun owners in America? It's the very people they despise. The same demographic quietly praying for Charlie's family right now, not rioting, not burning cities down the way Democrats did for George Floyd and others. And by the way, isn't it telling that with the advent of body cameras everywhere today, we don't see new George Floyds emerging? Because the narrative was always shaky, huh? What Democrats are doing here, in these videos we watched, is pushing the country to the edge of this petty self-righteous vindictiveness that they've attached to their personality. They don't realize the bullet they're biting. Because the women we just saw in those clips and the men parroting the same garbage couldn't hold their own in a real confrontation. I don't mean that as an insult, by the way. I mean that as objective reality. Words have consequences. Most men learn that lesson really early. You run your mouth to someone stronger, someone bigger, you might just get your ass kicked. And you figure out it's better to just build friendships and actually fight. There's a reason why the old saying goes, you catch more bees with honey than vinegar. But the rhetoric these liberals are putting out is nothing but rancid vinegar. And they're picking a fight they can't finish. This is what happens when moral seriousness is replaced by performative cruelty. And the broader culture rewards it with clicks instead of condemning it for the poison that it is.
Really congested with foot traffic and vehicle traffic.
God, you know, it would be so horrible if for like a final fundraiser, Turning Point could like sell, like, I went to Charlie Kirk's last event and survived shirts or whatever. I'm just kidding. That would be horrible. That's not good.
Going, dude. Really hilarious. You could practically hear the nervous laugh as he walked it back in real time. Tells you everything you need to know. No courage, no conviction, no backbone. That's exactly what we can expect from Democrats. Make a joke about an assassination, bask in the cruelty for literally not even a full second, and then hide behind, oh, just kidding, the moment it feels uncomfortable. And this is where we are at in America right now, folks. A culture so desensitized, so warped by institutionalized moral relativism and performative cruelty that political murder can be turned into a punchline on stream. And nobody in their circle blinks. In fact, he got a call later. They were worried because one of his friends has an organization that was focusing on harassing Charlie Kirk. So based on that, and obviously from every single clip we watched today, this isn't just about Destiny making a bad joke. It's about the larger Democrat institutional system. It's about the larger sickness where online clout rewards evil dressed up as irony, where the Democrat stronghold on education, on media, on cultural discourse, on the online narratives has created generations who confuse mockery for wit and nihilism for some sort of virtue. They'll laugh at death, they'll call it comedy, then insist they're the ones defending morality. But in reality, this reveals what their ideology has become: a shallow, cowardly, spiritually bankrupt death cult, incapable of offering anything to society beyond just pure destruction. I despise these people, folks. But at the same time, I pray for their souls, because you don't end up celebrating another man's death unless you're profoundly lost. Nobody in a healthy state of mind spends their time pumping out that kind of bile. It takes a deep emptiness to live like that. And it shows how far our culture has fallen under institutionalized relativism and the abandonment of faith. What we're seeing is a harvest of decades of Marxist grievance politics and division sown by media, universities, and politicians who profit from tearing us apart. And the result is a nation where cruelty gets branded as justice for some reason, and where glee over assassinations passes as virtue for some reason. But God doesn't speak through voices celebrating death. No, that's something else entirely. And if you can't tell the difference, you're already in the enemy's grip. What's tragic is that Charlie's entire project was to step onto campuses, face critics, and give them a platform. Even many liberals built their careers on social media by debating him. And yet, instead of valuing that, people cheer his murder. That should terrify us because it means the left has pushed its rhetoric to the point where persuasion no longer matters at all. Only elimination. And if history tells us anything, once you open that Pandora's box, whether it's Mao's China, Stalin's Russia, or our own culture wars, you can't close it again. And often the ones demanding violence are the ones to be the first to be destroyed by it. I pray we wake up before we cross that line. I really do, because while my generation may only have a few decades left, the young people watching this will inherit the chaos we create. And unless we rediscover truth and accountability and God's true purpose, this generation coming after us will be left with literally nothing but the ruins of a nation we were too blind, too angry, and too caught up in our own self-righteousness to save. Anyway, you tell me what you think in the comments down below. I hope you have a terrific day. Peace.